Hi everyone, Amy Kennedy here, ceramic artist from Melbourne, Australia. This is a follow-up video from my video last week in which I invited artists and craftspeople to share a draft or a part of their draft of an artist residency or a grant application so that I could look at it through the lens of specifics. How can you be more specific in this sort of writing? And I wanted to go down this road of specifics because it's something that I'll often say in my videos or with artists in my programs. You have to be more specific, And I thought, well, it's easy enough for me to say this, but how do I actually do it? And I would really like to show you how I do it. I would like to say thank you, a genuine thank you to the artists that shared their draft application for a grant. This artist doesn't know me very well, so I really appreciate it because you sort of put yourself in a vulnerable position, sharing something that is still forming. It's really exciting. It's really new. You're putting yourself out there. So I really genuinely thank her. I wanted to sort of do a two-prong approach to going through this application. So first, this is going to be a longer video than normal. It might be 15 to 20 minutes. So if you need to, hit pause, go and put the kettle on and grab a cup of tea. But if you're still watching, thank you. I hope that it is useful, that you might get some bursts of thinking and for an application you're currently working on or something you might be working on in the future. But yes, a two-pronged approach in this video of the macro, the big, how can you put more and more specifics in, get so much in there through questioning, asking questions, and then the micro, how can you really consider your choice of language, your choice of words, the value of words and how you arrange them to give really good quality specifics. Before I jump into the application, something really crystallized for me this week, looking at this artist's application and other applications I was looking at with artists in my program. So it's not based on any one specific application I was looking at, but it really came to me that when we are going towards these applications, when we're doing these applications, it's really important to have a certain mindset and a certain attitude. And it's sort of something like this, is that you, grant body, whoever you are, or residency body or whatever, it's really in your best interest to get on board with my project because it's really, really good. And I'm going to do this project, whether you give me that money or not. It's happening because I have such a belief. I am so committed. I've done my research. It's going to happen. I think this attitude is really, really important because it comes across in the writing, in the energy behind the writing. And also, it lights a firecracker under our butt to actually really know that if this is going to happen, I have to research this, I have to get in touch with this person, I have to make sure that that is actually realistically able to be done. And so it has many positives to really getting this mindset as you go into writing a grant application, for instance. Now, I know that we often want the money and we need the money, and if we didn't get the money, we might have to change our project quite a bit, but suspend that and come in with, yeah, this is really good. And you guys, Australia Council, Creative Victoria, whoever you are, you want to be a part of this. I think that, we can have a low confidence and question ourselves with this sort of stuff, especially if it's the first time we're writing an application or we've had rejection in the past. This is fine. This is normal, but none of this comes anywhere near the application, okay? Put it to the side. As my sister says, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. So that is my inspirational moment of this video. On to the application itself. I will not use this artist's name, and I'm going to change some of the things in it, hopefully in a bit of a humorous way, so she's not distinguishable. But to give you some context, this is a grant application for quite a significant amount of money over a significant period of time for an arts project. And for the macro level, the big level, my method, and this is how I would work with the artists in my programs, is to get their draft and then ask them a hell of a lot of questions. So many questions, I think I probably start annoying them a little bit, but that is my job. So the first things first, this artist wrote about developing a body of work, and she gave a little bit of information, but I wanted more. What will this look like? How many pieces? What's the scale? What's the material? More information. She mentioned how she will incorporate philosophy in this project. Philosophy is such a big topic, and this goes for any big topics. You really need to nut it down to what aspect of philosophy you are working with, and importantly, why you have chosen that, and write about it. This grant asked for a description of the creative ideas and concepts. Now, this artist had them in point form, so she had 3 really great ideas. For instance, one was the passage of time, another one, and another one. But they're in point form, and my suggestion was to flesh these out in full sentence form. You can really explain why you've chosen these concepts, why they're important, how they relate to each other, which is really important, and how you're going to explore them and why. One aspect to this artist project, which she has since changed, was sustainability. So she used that word sustainability, and my question to her was to really articulate what sustainability means to her. It is used all the time. That word and many other words are used all the time these days, and it can mean so many different things. It's a bit of an umbrella word. We need to get underneath the umbrella, and for her to really say what it is about sustainability. She wants to focus on what element, why it's important, and how she's going to do that. For instance, she had, I'm going to research and develop a sustainable studio practice. My question to her is, how are you going to research this? And this is across the board. It's not enough to say, I will research, I don't know, trees. I will research socks. You know, we have to show them, we have to tell them how we're going to do it. And my suggestion to her was, how will you do this? Will you visit specific studios that use sustainability practices? Will you visit certain industries to see how this is done? Will you attend sustainability workshops or conferences or summits? Will you speak to leaders in the field? She wrote how she wanted to use local materials, but she didn't describe the materials. So I want to know these materials, or at least some of them. And she talked about investigating carbon offsets. My question again was, how are you going to investigate this? How will you do this? Who will you consult with to give more information about this? So you can see my approach to this is to ask lots of questions, and you can ask lots of questions of yourself after you've done a first draft. You can totally do this yourself and ask yourself lots of good questions. Another aspect of her project was Ikebana, and she said she's going to research a certain form of Ikebana. And again, my question was, how are you going to research this? And she was going to look at certain qualities of this Ikebana form, but she didn't list the qualities. So you want to list these qualities that you're talking about, specifics. She was going to adapt these qualities to a certain aspect of her work. How are you going to adapt? How are you going to do this? Is it going to be through photography and then translation, observation, sketching, models, maquettes? Explain this process. She was going to collaborate with a certain artist. At this point, she didn't have the artist's name in. We need the artist's name, we need their title, we need where they're from, we need what they're known for, and their level of sort of credibility or descriptiveness around them. And she wanted to collaborate with this artist. But how will you collaborate? You know, collaboration can happen in so many different ways. Will you do this online because they're overseas? Will you do this in an intensive way? Will it be over a certain number of months? What are the elements of the collaboration? How will that look like? What will that look like? And she was looking at a certain medium that she was going to work in, but she just stated this medium. For instance, if it was ceramics, she just said, it's going to be ceramics. And my question to her was, well, what processes will you employ? How will you make these? What materials will you use? What sort of forms will they look like? Describe them, the scale, if it's ceramics, the specific firing and techniques. And she said she's going to create a certain sort of installation. And my question to her was, what will these look like? You know, will these installations be indoor and outdoor? And if they are indoor, why? And if they are outdoor, why? And will they be large scale? Will they be intimate size? Will people be able to interact with them? Do you have a venue in mind? So lots and lots of questions to elicit more detail and more specifics, because this shows that you've really thought it through. It's not a whim, it's not a wish, it's not a hope, you've really thought it through. And there was another aspect to her project, which I don't really want to say exactly what it is, so I'm just going to use the word aeroplanes as a descriptive to this part of her project. But she wanted to research and learn about aeroplanes. And again, my question was, how are you going to research and how are you going to learn? She was going to use a particular part of aeroplanes to incorporate into an Australian context, to sort of authenticate it in an Australian way, so to speak, which I actually thought was a really great part of her project. She'll know what I'm talking about. And but I wanted to see if there's any other ways that she can connect aeroplanes to this thing. You know, I think if you have one great idea, is to think, how else could I sort of realize that idea to make it even stronger? And she had a particular artist that she was going to work on aeroplanes with, but she just said his name. So I want more info. What sort of art does he do? Where's he based? What's he known for? And she said that she will attend a certain conference to learn more about aeroplanes. And I'm going to come back to this bit actually about the conference. Another part of the application asked for, how will this project, this activity, contribute to the community of where that grant is based? And she had a little bit about this, but I think it was still being formed. But I asked just a few more questions and suggested some things to think about, some specific ways that this will contribute. Some grants place such a high standard on the contribution, what you're going to give back. You really need to think so widely about it and actually make steps towards having that happen, like get confirmation about these things. A bit of a side note, I applied for funding which I was unsuccessful in. I got feedback on this funding and they said that if I had given confirmation of the things that I said I would do, I might have had a better chance. Who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the thing is, I had all these things that I was actually going to do, and I had gotten in touch with these organizations. I was going to present here and present there and present there. I had it all confirmed, but I didn't put a confirmation letter in my grant application. So if you are going to do these things, of course, always talk to the arts officer and talk it through with them and get their input, but always put confirmation letters in with your grant applications. It really builds up the level of commitment that you have to it and the level of planning that you've already done. So back to how she was going to contribute to the community, I suggested some things here, quite specific things, and maybe this could be useful for you to think about too, of areas that you could share your project with a wider audience, bring more people into your project, collaborate, communicate, all the good C words. Some things I said is that she's going to have these amazing installations. You know, how else could you communicate that or involve the community in your installations? She has a great studio set up. Is there any way through her studio and the community of people around her studio that she could tap into to contribute more or to connect with more people? Could she present to, for instance, Ikebana groups, airplane groups, this group, that group, school groups, sustainability groups, to really think widely about how she could connect with lots of different, to lots of different people in possibly lots of different fields? Could she create a dedicated social media channel to record the project and get online participation? Could she create a joint resource with one of the artists that she's going to be working with? Could she present at a certain conference on the project so far? Could she line up to speak on a podcast about the project? And are there regional areas within her area? Often some grants really place a lot of high value on connecting with regional areas. And how could she do this? Just going back to the micro level, we're at 14 minutes. Thanks for sticking with me. The micro level of choosing words and certain language, I often see where artists will say things like, I hope to do this in this grant project or this residency project, or I may do this, or I might do this. And I think it's really important instead to say, I will do this. Writing again in the way like this is happening. I will do this, I will do that, and then I will do this. This affirmative, really positive, taking action sort of approach is really good language to use. And just another specific on specifics. When you are including, for instance, you're going to go to a conference that's a part of your grant application, or you're going to go to a particular museum, you're going to collaborate with a particular artist, a particular community group, an archive, a gallery, whatever it is to not just say matter-of-factly, I'm going to this museum, I will go to this conference, I will work with this artist, but is to give that person, that place, that event, the elevation that it deserves on a really genuine level. For instance, there's a conference here in Australia, Clay Gulgong, that many of you know about, and you could write in a grant application, I will go to the Ceramics Festival Clay Gulgong to do A, B, and C. That sounds a certain way. Or you could go to that event's website, see the wording that they use to describe themselves, and use some of that, pinch some of that, and write that in your application, and write something like, I will attend Clay Gulgong, Australia's biennial international ceramics festival, which is globally recognised, and I will do A, B, and C. So you can sort of see the difference with that sort of language. It will really show the people that are reading it, oh yeah, this is an important conference. You know, give the elements of your project the gravitas that they deserve, not fakery or trying to polish something too much that it's over the top, but what it really deserves. I think that's really important. One last bit of her application, I think it might have been towards the end, and she hadn't fully formed this yet, but she used a little bit of language which I suggested not to use. And she said something along the lines of, this fund will give me confidence and this fund will validate my efforts. And I suggested don't use this sort of language because, again, we are coming in with supreme confidence. So don't use that, don't use confidence, don't use validation, but instead to really think about, particularly with this question, it was, how is it going to contribute to your creative practice? And to really think more about the really positive ways it's going to impact you, it's going to take you steps forward, it's going to involve other people. So some of the things that I suggested for her, which might be useful for you to think about too in a future grant application, is that this funding will give me time, it will give me resources, opportunities, pathways of exploration, chances to collaborate, to learn, to expand my knowledge, to work across different mediums, to bring them together to create something new, to create new connections with other practitioners, etc., etc. There's so much there that you could put in. So yeah, that is the grant application. Well, some of it. There was a lot more for this artist. So again, I want to really say thank you to her for sharing that with me and allowing me to do this video, which I hope is useful for her and I hope is useful for many people out there. So thank you for that, for doing that. I hope that gives you an idea of specifics and how I approach specifics. I will do that myself in a grant application I'm working on and with the artists that I work with in my programs. The big picture, more and more and more and more specifics. Ask yourself lots of questions, go layers deep, and then look at the value and the quality and the choice of your words when you are really honing in. One thing is that when I ask artists all these questions, they say to me, well, Amy, I just can't fit all that in. You know, you're asking me all these questions, but I can't fit all that in. I've only got this amount of words. Only got this amount of characters. But my approach is you get it all out, as much detail as you can, even if it's 10 pages longer than you're allowed. You get it all out, and then you've got something. You've got great stuff to work with. You can condense it, edit it, mold it, and you can put into something that's really strong. That's really potent and powerful and high quality. So it's the big picture of specifics, lots of stuff, and then you bring it back in, and then you have an opportunity to really look at the quality and the choice of your words and the value of your words and how they're really serving you and serving the project idea. So thank you for listening to this. It's quite a long video for me, but if you like the longer videos, let me know and maybe I'll do some more. I hope it's useful for you. Thank you for listening, and I hope it inspires you to be a little bit more specific, with the sorts of applications that you're applying to. And just going back to what I said at the start, is to be specific with the attitude that you come into these sorts of applications with. It's gonna happen. So thanks for listening, and I will see you next week.